So, The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel series. They're games. They're games that I've played. They're games that exist. It's a game series that I've been engrossed in for the past 2 whole months now as of recording this. And I've currently finished the 3rd game, and after I finish getting some of these thoughts down, I hope to move on to Cold Steel 4. As a very quick overview for those curious as to what the Cold Steel games even are, they're turn-based RPGs where the customization mainly comes from little gems called quartz, similar to materia from Final Fantasy VII. Same basic concept, you slot these little gems into your character's orbments, and you can do all manner of crazy arcane stuff. There's a wide variety of characters that'll join the narrative at every turn, so much stuff happening, and I'll be honest, the games manage to be exciting. Unfortunately, though, not consistently enough for me. I honestly can't say I like the series, nor do I truly hate it. I genuinely started playing to try and understand how people can like it, and 3 games in now, I think I get it, but I'm also still looking, so my journey still continues. I ain't saying the games are bad, but God do they test my patience. There are moments of brilliance, but they are, in my eyes, marred by inane, trite, absolutely banal school drama teen junk that cannot be interesting to me. I don't care about clubs, I don't care about studying for exams, I don't care about the summer festival stuff, and yet, I kept playing. There are some characters that truly stick out to me, but most are honestly super forgettable or incredibly cliche, which I will get to. I'm aware of all of this stuff before I went in. I again did all of this and continue to do this as an experiment and for a talking piece. I will move on to play Cold Steel 4 at some point, probably after I finish getting this all done. I'll use a numbering system for scoring at times, but please understand, a 10 out of 10 for me may be a 2 out of 10 for you. I'm going to look at the story, the characters, the writing, the music, the gameplay, and I suppose graphics and aesthetic, hopefully in that order and hopefully in a quick manner. The first game, Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel. The story is basically all set up in world building for what's going to happen. Reinschwarzer enrolls into the prestigious Thor's Military Academy where he's put into the newly instated Class 7, an experimental class for the school that is normally divided by commoner and nobility. So of course this means commoners and nobles will be in Class 7, which is unheard of, given that this is a very caste-based society we're thrown into. We follow Reen and this class going on different military exercises, but something always seems to pop up in every single one of them that eventually leads to the defining conflict and railroading of the series. Anyway, most of your characters in this game are going to be teenage high schoolers from various backgrounds and temperaments. Reen is a cool and collected, affable young man who seems to eventually get along with everyone. Machias Regnitz hates nobles with a passion due to his tragic backstory. Eustace Albarea is the youngest son of the greatest of the 4 ruling noble houses in this country. He takes great pride in being an upstanding noble, but he is arrogant. Sarah Valestein is an ex-bracer, kind of like a mercenary in this setting, but like the good-hearted, regulated kind. There's actual money-hungry mercs in this setting, but it's not important as of now. And she was hired to be an instructor for this class just last year. She is a heavy drinker, and honestly, having to deal with anime kids, I 100% understand her. Good lord, that lady's gone through a lot. This is a small portion of who all you get, but you get the point. There's lots of characters, something for everyone. I like Sarah and like a few others, but that's about it for me, sadly. The game and the series has what's called bond events with fellow students, whether they're playable or not, where you get to learn more about them and possibly the world. I treated this as like a pick your favorites and go nuts kind of thing, because you'll never have enough to get everyone, at least in one single playthrough, so it's very much in your best interest to just stick with who you like, that whole deal. The villains in this game, or series really, are not interesting save for exactly one that I've encountered, so have fun with that, I guess. The cast gets exponentially bigger every game, and in this game we get some stuff on characters, but it's not enough for me to truly get behind all of them. Reminder, this is a setup game. It's just setting the groundwork, 65 hours worth of setup and very little payoff for me, I get that. Some, yes, but it's just not quick enough. So, the writing is hit or miss for me. It's a super text-heavy game that relishes how many text boxes it can make you read just to know about a quest to go catch a fish. It is competent, but I think it's too full of itself? Like, it really loves to talk. And talk. And talk. I know it's a bit unfair to yell at a story-based game having so much dialogue, but I also reserve the right to say, just get to the frickin' point. I know I play games slowly, but the game took me 65 hours when I wasn't even 100%ing it. I think it could have been trimmed down safely to 50 hours if they had cut down on the completely silly conversations like, oh man, you've gotta try these fish and chips. And sometimes it's fine. I love slice of life stuff, and I really like down-to-earth, character-driven moments that really let you see how the person acts and thinks. However, we're in a war. I don't care about food. We're in the military academy trying to train for warfare. Why do I care about these fish and chips? I don't. But the game insists I should. I guess technically speaking, there is no war yet, but you get what I mean. They're in a military academy, and they're... I understand that it's a nothing issue, and that I'm overreacting to a lot of that kind of stuff, but I don't like when games force me, the player, to focus on that kind of stuff. But this game does it a lot. It expects me to care about a lot of these weird, mundane things. And I like a lot of mundane things. Like I said, I do like slice of life, but I think it has a time and a place in a video game that is about terrorists kidnapping and attacking schools. I don't care about the fish and chips at that point. I just don't, and I will not care about it. On that note, the localization team also needs a better conversation connector or seasoner than haha or ahaha. There are seriously so many instances of just those variants of laughter that of the 1,201 screenshots I took of the game, roughly 90%, not an exaggeration, include one of those. I'm willing to see that it's a localization problem, possibly, but the fact remains it's what I encountered, and it's funny as frick! Beyond that, the writing is mostly what you expect, but they really want to set up and flesh out the whole scenario before they get to the good parts. This unfortunately entails you, the player, playing a bunch of high school kiddos, attempting to thwart terrorists, but almost always needing saving by other people. It gets a bit boring and incredibly disrespectful after the 15th frickin' time it happens. In each game, I'll get to it, but seriously, 3 games in, and they still pull the haha, I was just testing you end of battle line and just wipe you out in a cutscene. God, that infuriates me so much. So much gameplay narrative dissonance on that. But you know what? Let's get positive here for a moment. The music is nice. I wasn't blown away except for like a few tracks, but in general, it does a good job. It is good music. I cannot yell at the music. That's a good thing. The final dungeon theme is incredible. I love it. It's seriously probably my favorite track in 1. I don't have anything snarky or interesting to say here. The music is alright. It does its job. I could safely listen to a lot of these tracks and not remember them since that's just how I am, but I'll have a good time with them. Like, the sound team always does a good job for Falcom. Literally always. But since I mentioned the dungeon theme, I should finally get to the gameplay. There's actually not too much for me to say on this. It's a standard turn-based fare. You take 4 characters and like 2 to 3 backup characters. You can link 2 people together for combo attacks. You can equip quartzes for spells and stat or passive adjustments and playstyle tuning. It's serviceable. The problem I have is that your party is forced for like 90% of the game, so they want you to use everyone. You have like 10 playable characters on average. It goes up, actually. In a 4-person party. F that noise. I don't like it. Don't clutter that nonsense. I'm the kind of person that wants to stick to one party and just build on that, but this series in general does not like that. They'd rather you use a plethora of characters, and I don't want that. When I find half the cast boring, or incredibly problematic, like Angelica, who is legitimately a molester or problem. The final thing I'm gonna note, the graphics are a weird discussion, to be honest, especially for the first 2 games, and it's not entirely super fair, as this was, to my knowledge. If it isn't, it looks like a PlayStation Vita game. I don't know the exact thing on that. Anyway, but as a PS3 title, it does not look great. It looks pretty trash. The hand-drawn 2D art is fantastic. The aesthetic is great, but the 3D models do not hold up well at all. I didn't mention it till now, but basically the aesthetic is, it's an urban game. It's like an urban modern fantasy sort of setting. You've got stone buildings, bricks, motorcycles, cars, phones, electricity, but you've also got magic, ghosts, demons, sacred swords, saints, all that stuff, spirits and religion and gods and so forth. But this also means they want to focus on those modern aspects from a narrative standpoint. And those parts don't interest me too much. They are good, but I'm just not super into them. Explaining how a phone works to teens in the modern age is not how I want to spend my time when they're all learning combat training. That's all. So that's my rundown of what this game entails, and I would honestly paint this all as a solid 5 out of 10, maybe 6 out of 10 at moments, but it's so cluttered and desperate to make me care about something, but never in the moment. It's always later in the series that it's like, oh, you don't worry, we're setting up for later. Why? It rarely gave me something to care about in the moment that wasn't Sarah or Alyssa, to be honest. Reen is a weird case of he plays off of everyone really well, but by himself, game 1, super boring. He's not offensive, just boring. He's just a protagonism, as I like to say. It does get better with each game, but like, somewhat. It was an okay game. It had moments of brilliance, most scenes involving Sarah sassing her dumb anime students, but they were marred by bloated dialogue and some problematic elements. I forgot to mention, it's kind of a product of its time, and there's a lot of toxic masculinity instances of like, oh, you can't do that, that's girly, you have to be a man. There's even multiple quests where an instructor is pissed off at you losing to a girl in sports competition or whatever, and literally shows you the man way method, which involves working out past the point of exhaustion, because that's how men do it. And I genuinely hated it, because that is a terrifying way to do things. Do not do this. You are going to cause permanent damage and hurt yourself a lot. Why? It's not funny. It's not a funny joke. Anyway, to reiterate, 5 out of 10. And I don't mean this as like a, oh my god, 5 out of 10, don't play it. I mean it as a true, like, mid 5 out of 10. It does some good things, it does some bad things in equal measure. I wanted to like it. I like JRPGs, I like cool stuff going on, like this urban fantasy is a great aesthetic, but it just didn't strike the chords that I wanted it to strike for myself. That's all. It is at this point that I'm going to end the video. I hope people check in for my next one, as I've decided to, instead of doing one big series review, I'm going to chop it up into small talking points thing for each game, make it more bite-sized. If you liked it, come back when it's up. I'm working on it as I speak. Just share your thoughts down below. Have a good one.